So I'm Hunter, and I'm talking with Cinema for the Blind. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. How are you?
I'm fantastic, as always. Hopefully, great is fantastic. I don't know which one's better. But, so you guys are in a group called Cinema for the Blind, correct?
Yep, that's the name of our band.
So, like, where did that name come from?
Oh, man. That's... It was quite an interesting story because we'd struggled to all agree on a name. Like 2 years, I think. And there were several things we came up with along the way that were like, oh, that's clever, but, that should probably be like an album name or something because it's too long.
Right.
But I at one point suggested Cinema for the Blind, and that was one of those that people thought should be an album name or something. But after 2 years of arguing, I brought it up once more, and everyone kind of crumbled and was like, yeah, that's actually pretty dope. We should go with that, probably.
I mean, it's a cool name, man, because, like, music is cinema for the blind, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's supposed to be the meaning, basically.
Right.
There's like a multi-layered thing to it, but I think you get one.
Well, I've always liked, it's a little bit of irony, like, involved in it, and I love that kind of a vibe when it comes to a band name.
Yeah.
So, like, so you guys, do you write your own songs, write your own lyrics? Like, how much, like, in control of the creative process are you three?
Yeah, we're very in control of the creative process. We were more of a cover band for a while, and that was like a couple iterations ago with different members and not nearly as much experience. But we decided at some point that we wanted to be completely original. I'm with a few covers, but those are just like for fun and like to put in songs that people know really well and like, or stuff that people don't know very well at all, so that they don't even know it's a cover a lot of times. They think it's an original, but we're very in control. We write all of our own music.
That's awesome. And I mean, like, half the fun of doing a cover is like putting your own touch onto a song you already like.
We try to put our own little spin on it, so it's a little bit different from the original cover.
Right. So, like, I like, what are a couple of covers that you've done? And we'll get to originals as well, but I mean, I'm just curious, like, what are some songs that you guys have covered and just really enjoy?
Hit the Road Jack.
Yeah, Hit the Road Jack. That's always fun because that's just a crowd pleaser, and we put our own little spin on it. It's definitely a lot more like electrically powered than the original version, obviously. And I don't even think we have a keyboard or piano usually when we do it. We used to, but we sort of grew out of that. We don't really have a keyboard or piano on it anymore. And then we're working on getting up to speed enough to cover a couple Imagine Dragons songs right now because we're all pretty big into Imagine Dragons.
No, like who's not into Imagine Dragons?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, to some degree. Like, that may not be your favorite, but like, Imagine Dragons.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows.
But you said that song was a crowd pleaser. So are you guys touring? Are you out there performing a lot? Or are you more of like a recording and that kind of a band? So like which do you do? Are you more public or more recording, studio?
Everyone, I think, has a little bit different story there. Like, they focus on one thing or the other first more. And we focus more on the recording aspect of things first because we really wanted to get that tight because it's great, like, promotional material to send people to say, hey, this is something I worked on. But right now we're really working on, now that we've sort of gotten down the aspect of recording, we're working a lot more on getting our live performance up to speed. And, there's some interesting challenges in that, but it's coming along smoothly, and I think we're on the path. But I would say overall, right now, we're still more centered on recording, but we're getting to live performances.
So you just said something about like there's like a few challenges to that. Like what challenges exactly? What?
Oh boy. Well, for one thing, the band has gone through many member changes. We used to play when it was more just Blaze and I. We would play with some very like professional but more adult guys that would come in and like learn the parts really quickly, and they were really good, but they were more like studio players basically that we would hire on. We were looking in some sense for some more permanent members of the band, and also some people more our age in general.
Right.
So we got a new guitar player recently. He's really great. His name's Mateo. He couldn't be here today, but I wish he could have. But yeah, he's really great. And then we've We've had the darndest luck finding a bass player, man. Every time we get a bass player, it's just like, oh, it ends up that there's like a schedule conflict, so we got to keep going. So we played with a couple great people that overall the schedules conflict and they just don't work out. So we're sort of looking for a bass player right now, and we're trying to figure it out there. That's one of the biggest challenges, I think, is finding like solid members that all work together well.
Yeah, because like, picturing that in my head, like you three, and then like a 40-year-old, like on the bass. That's just something about that seems so odd in my head, But like, so you guys are fairly young, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So like, what is the exact age there, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah. How old are you?
I'm 13. I'm going to be 14 next month.
Okay.
I'm 16, but I'll be 17 in November.
And I just turned 14.
14. Okay, cool beans. And like, so you guys, you write your own lyrics, you write your own songs. So like, what's some of like the inspiration for lyrics? Like, where did the lyrics come from for the songs that you write? Originals.
The lyrics. The lyrics are interesting because that's the thing that I think overall with the writing process that takes us the most amount of time. Inspiration for me has usually come from basic like songwriting exercises, okay. But then the exercise ends up going far enough to turn into a song. Like comprise a list of things about a person, for example, that you find attractive or something like that, and then just like I did that, and then instead of just using it as an exercise, I took it to the next level. But as for influence, like people, that's a tough to answer question right now because I feel like I'm still developing my lyric writing process overall. I can't necessarily speak for the others, but and the lyrics overall have been a collaborative process. We do write all of our own music and we work on all of it. We always have an influence, but we have done a lot of collaboration with other people who are more experienced in lyric writing and then tweaked their stuff to sort of fit our style. So,
so this is in some way like also a learning process.
Oh yeah,
for you guys as well. Like, and so that's also got to be fun, and that has to have challenges itself, right? And like, I mean, not having like the experience and not to like approach some of the situations that you run into. Yeah. So like, how much like the studio work? Like how often are you guys in the studio? Like how often are you recording new stuff, and like how long does that process take for you guys?
It used to be. It used to be a little more often, like when we were, I would say, in the middle of our, like, at the peak of our studio time, and it's gotten harder recently with school starting and everything, that affects everyone's life. But I think at our peak, like every other week.
We were doing every other week on Sundays for 6 hours.
So yeah, about 6 hours every other week, which if we had more time, I'd love to spend more time in the studio, honestly. But, and then we sort of had to cut back a little bit. We've started working in a couple different studios. Like the one we used most recently was a 10-hour session, and that was everyone's first 10-hour session, and that was like something else. Like you don't expect how tiring it can be to sit in a studio for like 10 hours
and listening to the same thing
over and over again. It's good because you're like, okay, we need to perfect it a little more, get it a little better.
You got to find that little tiny tweak, change it just so. Sometimes I imagine. So that's cool. So like, is it tough like balancing the band with school as well, like for you guys, or is it kind of like the priorities are straightened out for the most part, or does that ever cause issues basically?
I mean, our parents are all really supportive of this as like a potential career, and they don't just treat it as like, oh, it's an extracurricular activity, like baseball or whatever. Yeah, music is part of our school. It's very integrated, so they're very willing to help adjust our school schedule so that we have plenty of time to work on music. So I would say, luckily, it's kind of rare for this, but it's not actually much of a challenge to balance school.
To balance school and that. So
yeah, same thing overall. We were brought up learning music. So.
Okay, so like music's like a very encouraged thing in your household then. Like,
yeah, totally, yeah.
Are your parents musicians as well, or?
Mine and his mom, she sings, but other than that, not really.
Not really? Okay. But so, like, when did interest in songwriting and music in general start for you three? Like, what was that thing that piqued your interest and made you actually seriously consider it and seriously start diving into it?
like specifically the process of making our own music as opposed to just like playing other people?
Well, not even necessarily that. I'm just saying, like, what kind of drew you to music in general? Well, like, what's the draw? What like magnetized you to it? Like, when did you wake up and go, you know what, I want to try playing in a band? What was that moment for you guys?
Oh, playing in a band. Well, it's so fun because that's a hard question to answer in the sense that I've been around it literally ever since I can remember. Like, through family gifts and stuff, I had a keyboard and a drum set when I was like 4 years old, I think. So I was already messing around on those. It never felt like something like, hey, do you want to try this? I just always done it and progressed slowly. That's why it's hard to answer that question. I'm trying to come up with a better answer. But specifically the band thing, we sort of had the idea, and it was given to us by a couple of people after we'd done some casual like open mic nights and stuff back when it was just Blaze and I. Back in the days of me playing like classical piano and stuff, when some people were like, hey, maybe y'all two should start a band together and play together and work on some stuff and do it on a more regular basis. And I was probably when I was like,
you were 9 and I was 6.
9. Wow. Yeah. So that was a while back.
Wow. So like basically, you're saying that your heart beats in rhythm, right? Like it's so in your DNA and fiber. It's just part of who you are.
Totally. Yeah.
So like we like touched on some of your like favorite covers, but like what's some of your favorite originals that you guys have done?
I'd say overall my favorite original is "She's Forever," which is one of the songs that's getting radio airplay right now. I've been really happy for that. I think it's partly my favorite because it was my first like big experience writing and tweaking lyrics. It wasn't just me tweaking. I wrote about 50% of the lyrics on that song, and that was like really difficult for me at the time. So I was kind of proud it was an accomplishment. I also like the blend that it achieves between like pop, but then like a little bit of like a rock and funk sort of vibe. And then third, the development story behind that song is absolutely like crazy and hilarious, and like you would not how it came about. I mean, it involves like collaborating with a dude halfway around the globe to write it and stuff. It's so crazy. It's great. We are Cinema for the Blind, and this is our next song, She's Forever.
I woke up to a slice of sunshine pouring through a broken window. My head hurts and the room is trashed as my heart is stuck in limbo. Memories that soak my mind as I dare to look around. I got my wallet and I got my keys, but she ain't nowhere to be found. And I can't imagine living life without her. Yeah, she's forever, like the sweetest song stuck in your head. I'm lost within her. I see the things that could be, just floating among those debris. I can't let this get away, no, no, no. With a little bit of flirt, yeah, something you would stay up all night for. Dangerous eyes, looking carefully sly. She bends the rules with the flavor. Without her, time ticks along like a frozen waterfall. She slipped out while I slept, and now I don't know who to call. And I can't imagine living life without her. Yeah, she's forever, like the sweetest song stuck in your head. I'm lost within her. I see the things that could be, just floating among those debris. I can't let this get away, no, no, no. Living life without her, yeah, she's forever, like the sweetest song stuck in your head. I'm lost within her. I see the things that could be, just floating among those debris. Can't let this get away, no, 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 no. She's forever, like the sweetest song stuck in your head.
also have like a few music videos, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
So how is that? How is filming a video for a song that you made?
I think it's really fun.
Filming is fun, but it's not my favorite process yet, and that's because like when it comes to music video, I get really perfectionist, and I compare it and I set this standard of like, oh, we need to make it like a big radio artist music video, and I mean, we're starting off small, we're not as experienced yet, and of course there's like budget limitations and stuff too to filming a music video when you're like us, right? So I'm never quite all the way satisfied, and sometimes I have to check myself and just be like, you know, it's okay, we're starting off small. So I would say it's not my favorite process because of that, but I think when we're a little bit bigger, more experienced, and the budget for filming music videos is a little bit larger, I think it's going to be one of my favorite processes.
So you're going to be, like, I guess the way of saying it is that in your mind you have this set production value that you want, and it's something that you can't really attain with the resources you have now.
Right.
And so, like, in your mind, it's just not matching up to, like, the scale, I suppose. Is that your way of putting it?
Totally.
Yeah, okay. I can understand that. And so, like, where do you want to go with this group? Where do you want Cinema of the Blind to eventually be? Like, what is the final destination for this group?
I want lots of radio airplay. I want tons of our songs on the radio all around the nation or all around the world. Because I think songwriting, and especially playing your own songs, but even just songwriting, is a very viable career opportunity and form of living. And that's not to say that I don't like performing live. And I think if we had focused on performing live first, you know, like the question you asked earlier, my answer to you right now would probably be like, oh, I want to tour all around the world and every single place to play for every person on the planet. And I think once I get to that level, it's going to be an equal. I think once we get to that level, it's going to be everyone's like equal want to like have a lot of good songs recorded in the studio, but at the same time be performing for so many different people. But I would say overall we want to be famous. You know, we want to be a big band. That
you want it to be extremely successful. Like you want people to like scream Cinema for the Blind, like out there in the streets just randomly for no reason at all.
I want pyrotechnics that are fun.
That's the ultimate goal is pyrotechnics.
So, like, is there like a song that you're working on a video for that's not out yet, or if you're allowed to, or if you care to mention that, or so like, what's your next project that you're stepping to next? Like, well, where are you going in the short term with it as well?
Right. So the next video that we're working on, and we haven't really started doing any recording for it yet, but we sort of started throwing around ideas and talking about it, is it's for the newest original that we've written called Hey California. And it's funny, I don't keep up with like whether, I'm not really good at keeping up with whether it's been put out there at all or not, like little snippets or stuff for people to hear, but I think on our Instagram, there's been a couple short clips of it uploaded like while we're working on it in the studio so people can hear. But it's this really super weird, chilled out rock pop vibe that I came up with the chord progression for, and then someone else wrote most of the lyrics for. But it's really interesting. It's not like other things that you hear on the radio, but I still think it's viable enough to be on the radio. And we're talking about recording a music video for that next. And that's going to be interesting. We're trying to decide if we want to go really complicated, like, a story or stuff like that. We want to have it be a video of us, like all playing acoustic guitars on a street corner with a really chilled out vibe. So we're sort of throwing ideas around. We haven't really decided yet.
So like you don't know exactly where it's going, but you know that will be the next video. Like you're certain. All right. And so like as far as
session was actually recording that. Our most recent recording session, the 10-hour one, was actually starting to record the tracks for that.
Oh, that's awesome. And so like is there like musically, like is there like a new song in the works, or are you guys working on like a new album, new EP, anything along those lines, or is it all in the writing process now because like you just finished heavy recording?
We sort of debated whether we're going for an album or an EP. We actually have more songs than most people realize we have, but a lot of them is stuff that we came up with a while back before we'd hit our current level, like our milestone of being on point and as professional. So a lot of them we haven't really mentioned to people because we're like, this isn't quite it yet. So we're going to go back and redo a lot of our songs with our modern vibe. And we also sort of underwent a bit of not a genre change, but more of a genre focus. A clarification, yeah, because we were like all over the map, and we had a lot of stuff that was really like a little too blues and rock, which is really fun to play, but is not necessarily, viable for the pop market nowadays, or the alt market, which is where we kind of want to blend and cross over. So we're going and taking some of our old, like, 2 blues and 2 rock stuff and shifting it over a bit more into the pop sector overall.
Hey, we're Cinema for the Blind, and this is our new song,
Outta Here Fast.
Fake the world out. Let them think that you're related. Take a loan out on this madness you're creating. Here you go again, just inventing the past. You think that I'm believing, but I'm out of here fast. Here we go again, just reliving the past, but I'm out of here fast. Yeah, I'm out of here fast. Looks like you're losing, baby, you've been snoozing, taking all your chances on the if now. Shooting off your bullets with the toy gun. Looks like you're faking, doing all the taking, taking all the money where there ain't none. You trust the words you say, so baby, we're done. Yeah, I'm out of here fast. You're running with the hardcore, keeping pace with God. Styling on your high horse. Think I buy it, but I'm not. 'Cause you ripped off the wrong girl. Couldn't see that you were taking what you should've left alone. Gotta keep my heart from breaking. Here we go again, just reliving the past. But I'm out of here fast. Yeah, I'm out of here fast. Looks like you're losing, baby, you've been snoozing, taking all your chances on the if now. Shooting off your bullets with the toy gun. Looks like you're faking, doing all the taking, taking all the money where there ain't none. You trust the words you say, so baby, we're done. Yeah, I'm out of here fast. Looks like you're losing, baby, you've been snoozing, taking all your chances on the if now. Shooting off your bullets with the toy gun. Looks like you're faking, doing all the taking, taking all the money where there ain't none. You trust the words you say, so baby, we're done. Here we go again, just reliving the past. But I'm out of here fast. Yeah, I'm out of here fast.
But no, it's been a pleasure talking to you guys, and I hope to hear big things from you. Well, big things from Cinema for the Blind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
All right. Well, y'all take care, man.
You too.
You too. It was great talking to you.
All right. Bye-bye.